My point is, I made a commitment, a strong commitment to what I wanted to do. And my passion for being President of the United States, for being a congressman, I rallied a bunch of people on my team to support me. And then when I changed my goals, I went back to them and says, I'm not going to be President of the United States. I'm not going to be Congress. I want to go and be CEO of a major corporation. I want to go to Harvard Business School, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. They're like, but we care about you. They were invested in me. So I was able to change my goals, but what was important, what stayed with me? My relationships. And to this day, Elsie Hillman, Henry L. Hillman's wife, who's one of the wealthiest men in the United States, who was really my benefactor at a very early age, is still a good friend. Your relationships last with you a lifetime. Share your passions. Enlist people in your dreams. But then, share your struggles. If you're one of these individuals that are walking around with walls up around you, and you're unwilling to put those walls down and let people know that you're human, people will never trust you. People are never going to trust you if you're not human. Now, you don't start by going up to somebody and say, I'd love for you to be my mentor. Let me tell you how vulnerable I am. Right? You build up to it. You build up to it. You start at a foundational level of all of these things, and you get to the stage where you're comfortable enough where you can start talking to them about the real stuff that's going on in your life. You start talking about some of the fears, some of the vulnerabilities and the struggles. I was about to ask this question earlier, but I'm going to ask it now. How many of you, what do you think about me now versus when I first came up here? What do you think about me now versus when I gave that introduction? Here I was this, that, and youngest partner or whatever. And I even started talking about other things that I do that sort of make me vulnerable. I mean, on a personal life, oh my God, am I vulnerable? I am single for the first time in 17 years as of January. That is not, I'm not fishing. And as a result of being single, I want to let you know that I live in Los Angeles primarily on the weekends, which means I had to get into Los Angeles single shape, which is very different than New York single shape. You guys wear a lot of clothes. We don't out there, okay? So I had to shed 15 pounds and get a trainer and start doing creatine and get pumped, okay? So as a part of that, I had to make carbs void of my life, absolutely void of my life. So in the process of making carbs void of my life, I live in terror from meal to meal that I won't find Splenda. I swear to God. Because it's like my only sweetness that I have in my life right now, And I will show up at a Starbucks, in the morning, and for knowing that I'm going to be on 2 planes today, I'm going down to Philadelphia, then I'm going out to Vegas. I'm going down to Wharton actually this afternoon, and then I'm heading out to Vegas for a gig tomorrow. And you know what I'll do? I swear to God, I steal Splenda. I steal it, and I put it in here. I've become your grandmother, going around in Palm Beach, like taking salt shakers and putting it in my purse kind of thing. It's sad. It's absolutely sad, but it's who I've become. Struggling and scarcity is a mentality that I've got to work hard to extricate myself from that. I get afraid of things like that. It is what it is. I work on it. And as a result, I think that my own struggling also, impacts my company. I'm 40 years old this year. I just turned 40. And in the process of turning 40, I had a CEO at Starwood Hotels who by this time had bought Sheraton and Westin, all right, Barry Sternlicht. I've got a very successful 30-person company. I'm very excited about my company and what we do in the consulting arena and in training and development. And we're building a very successful consumer business, taking this message out to people rather broadly. And, I'm sure it's my issue of scarcity and my past experiences with debt and failure with my real estate stuff, et cetera, that's stopping me from going out and acquiring some, 500-person training and development company. Or, you know what I'm saying? So it's still there. I still grapple with it. Pause. How do you feel about me now, knowing all of these things at the top, the fears, the vulnerabilities, the struggles, the challenges? How do you feel about me now versus before? She's like, you're a loser.
I was thinking you're much more complex, and I would sort of describe you as a jigsaw puzzle. Like, you think you have this one track amazing career, and you have each set planned out and stuff. But then, I don't know, I can sort of have an affinity with you. You don't know where you'll go. Well, you sort of have aims and stuff, but you don't really know if you're going to want to do that. And it's quite nice being this age that everyone's sort of confused about their future and stuff, to hear that,
right.
You're successful as you are today. why
Well,
in that beginning.
and you said affinity, you know, and another word could be empathy. Yeah. I'm well-grounded. Well, I've grown into that, and I'm not nearly as well-grounded as I hope someday to be. Spiritually, I hope someday to be much more grounded than I am today. And, you know, it's just one of those things, and I say this to you because, listen, this transition that I've just made in front of you, from being smarmy author guy talking up here, you know, to a real person with complexity that you could actually feel for a little bit, this is what I want for each of you in the workplace. This is what I want your bosses to feel toward you. This is what I want the mentor program here that you're creating. This is what I want your relationship to be like with your mentor. Yeah.
Do you think that it's different for women in that it's more acceptable for a guy to admit? Do you think it's different for women in that it's more acceptable for a man in the workforce to admit his vulnerabilities and he's seen as sensitive and caring, whereas if a woman does so, she might be seen as just sort of weak?
Sure. Let's talk about that. It's the great question that I'm always asked when I'm doing women's group. And by the way, I've been adopted as an honorary woman. Because, thank you, exactly. Congratulations. I'll take that as a big compliment because, you know, I work with Nike's executive women's group, Wharton's executive women's group. We must have done at least 12 executive women's groups. And we've done a lot of research into this area. Here's what I'd suggest to you. Don't let the guy bastards pigeonhole you into telling you how they think you should behave. At the end of the day, what I'm telling you is the core to success. Your capacity to create intimacy with your peers and bosses is the core of your success. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you don't have that intimacy, people will not invest in you. It's a fundamental truism, okay? If you have that intimacy, people will care about you and they'll bring you up the organization faster. You hear what I'm saying? You at least believe that. You believe that if your boss cares about you, you'll be more successful. You believe that somebody more senior to you investing in you will make you more successful. Is anybody that doesn't believe in that? Everybody believe in that? Okay, that is a truism. Now, why handicap yourself? Screw them. Seriously, if you're sitting back saying, well, I can't play that game because I'm a woman, don't do that to yourself. You have to play that game. That's the game of relationships. That's the game of being human. If you say to yourself, well, I can't play that game because they might hit on me, you know, or I can't play that game because they're going to think that I'm hitting on them, or I can't play that game because, you know, they're going to think I'm weaker because I'm a woman, screw them. You have to play that game. Now, you may have other ways that you have to go about doing it. If you're working for some misogynistic bastard, you know, or you're working for some total dirtbag who's trying to hit on you or something, first of all, get the hell out of those opportunities as quickly as you can, all right? But if for some reason you find yourself in one of those situations, so instead of me where I'd reach out to my boss and I'd say, hey, let's go out and, you know, get a great bottle of red wine and have dinner, you might have to say, would you mind meeting me and another coworker for breakfast? You know, if you think that person would misinterpret your ovations. Do you know what I'm saying? You might have to use different tactics in order to do it. But look, we're all handicapped. We're all handicapped. You know, you could say that you're as a woman handicapped. On the flip side, there's probably ways to utilize that to your benefit that guys don't have. You know, we all know that I'm sitting here talking about the pinnacle of intimacy is deep mutual understanding, the capacity for two people to really deeply understand who they are. Most people long all their lives to find a significant other who gets them, who really understands who they are and has that kind of intimacy. And you can give that gift to so many people. And a lot of people suggest, and I don't necessarily buy it, but a lot of people suggest that women are more capable of that or more easily capable of that than men are. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But the point is, whatever it is, that pinnacle is something that you need to achieve, that deep mutual understanding. I was handicapped too. You know, I'm a gay guy, by the way. If anybody Googled me, you might have found that out. But that gave me a little bit of a handicap going up through the ranks. And, you know, with that kind of handicap, one might suggest, well, does that mean that I didn't reach out to other, you know, senior or peer men because they think I was hitting on them? No. You know, you utilize everything that you have. You're handicapped in some ways or not. Does that help a little bit?